Great morning, great morning, great morning. I am Nicole D. Jones, and I am just happy and grateful for another day. I'm happy and grateful for life. I say it every week. I don't take days for granted. I don't take life for granted. I don't take you for granted. I want to remind you that you are healthy, you are wealthy, and you are prosperous. Everything your hands go to touch, it must, it shall, and it will manifest, prosper, and grow great things because you are great. Jehovah God is not looking for us to be perfect, but He is looking for us to pursue our purpose. He's looking for us to progress. He's looking for us to prosper. He's looking for us to say less of me and more of you. He's looking for those things, but perfect is never what He called us to be because we are perfect. We're created in perfection. So this journey is what helps us perfect that. Okay. So I know we're talking about relational intelligence, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all because this is my safe place. I have been very emotional this morning. I don't know what that's about, but one thing I am grateful for, I'm grateful that I can really be assured that as I am walking this journey out, as I'm understanding my purpose, as I'm learning to put me first, as I'm understanding that it is my responsibility to steward my soul. It is allowing me to be more vulnerable, more humble, more open, and be okay with it. Okay. So, as we're going through this, and we know that foundationally, emotional intelligence is necessary for relational intelligence. God created us to be relational. He never created us to be alone, but it has been our purpose through this journey that we walk it out together. Okay. So we go through the steps of where we are healthy for ourselves. And last week, I don't know about you all, but last week, a couple of those conversations had to be had. But I'm so happy and grateful that even in it, I knew my posture, I knew my stance. I was not, doesn't mean I didn't feel anything when having them, but I was able to be able to communicate my emotions, my feelings, and not sway based off of someone else's. Okay. So as we go through this process, they're like building blocks. All right. And so now this week, where we're at is I don't know if you guys know, but the revelation is if any of you all had conversation, everybody don't listen, y'all. You do understand that as much as you talk, everybody is not listening, okay? I talk a lot, and I've had to accept and understand that everyone don't listen, all right? But here's the deal. What we're going to focus on this week is setting boundaries, all right? Because you've got to understand that, first of all, as we should know at this point, when we're having these conversations, it is for both parties, but it's mainly for you. Okay. The whole reason why we're doing this and we're understanding relational intelligence, at the end of the day, it is for you. You have to understand you have to understand that you are a steward over your soul. You have to understand that you're not always going to see eye to eye. You've got to understand that you're not always right in a situation, but what you are is you're a steward of you. You're protecting you. You're able to verbalize and communicate how you feel, what you're thinking, but it does not have to be in this whole alpha arena where you just have to headlock someone to agree with you. No, because your perspective is yours. Okay. Doesn't make it right all the time, but you got to know what parts are right for you. Okay. So now we're at a point where we're learning to set boundaries. All right. You have to establish boundaries. Okay. Now, I tell you, we have mentors. I have mentors in my life. I have advisors in my life. But the greatest mentor that you have is Jesus. All right. He's the mentor. He is who we should follow. He is like that anchor. And even Jesus had to set boundaries. Okay. You got to remember that, well, you got to know he's like the greatest model of relational intelligence. Because even with Jesus and the disciples, after things were done, he would send them ahead of him. He would take time to be alone. He would have to set boundaries even with the disciples because he understood relationally what it is that he needed. Okay? So you got to understand that you have to set boundaries. All right? You've got to know when you need to be alone. You've got to know when you need to send people with instruction. You also got to know when to cut some things out. Okay? So, let's see, I said that. And you gotta also know that when you set boundaries, it's also to help someone else. It's helping you, but it's also helping someone else at the same time, okay? We set boundaries and you have to understand why you set them, all right? Let's see. To be clear, boundaries aren't about what others will and won't do. Boundaries are about what you should and shouldn't do. Okay. So a lot of times you got to make sure you have the right perspective of boundaries and you're not using them to manipulate. Okay. You don't set a boundary because someone don't agree with you or they ain't saying what you want to hear. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm cutting them off. I'm not going to let them do this or that. No. You have to, in this relational intelligence place that we're in, you've got to know why you're doing what you're doing. And you've got to know that boundaries are not for people, they're for you. Okay. And you have to use them in the right way so that you're not trying to manipulate or, manipulate someone or something to get what you want. That's not why we set boundaries, okay? Boundaries should be what define us, all right? You're setting boundaries because it should be something that defines you. They define what is me and what is not me. A boundary shows me where I end and where someone else begins, leading me to a sense of ownership, all right? So you got to understand, like, when you set boundaries, they should be based off of who you are. Boundaries should help you reflect. It should help you keep control of yourself. It should help you in a good way. All right. That's what they're set for. As you begin to learn yourself, love yourself, you should not be willing to put yourself in abusive or traumatic places. That's what boundaries are for. All right. And abuse is there's so many areas and levels of abuse. It's not just physical. Okay. I'm starting to believe that the physical may be one of the least because bruises go away. All right. Hurt spaces, they begin to stop hurting. But when you have that emotional abuse, when you have that mental abuse, like, man, like that's internal. That's like penetrating into the soul. Okay. Now, if you are the gatekeeper, you're the one who is the good steward over your soul. You've got to set these boundaries so that you know not to allow these things to enter into your gates. Okay. And only you can do that. All right. So taking responsibility of your life opens up different options. They're to help us guard our heart with all diligence. Boundaries help us keep the good in and the bad out. Okay? That is the whole purpose of boundaries. See, I'm telling y'all, I tell y'all all the time, we're spirit with soul wrapped in this flesh. If we could get the understanding of what we walk out from a spiritual place and pull it down, you do understand that you have all authority to pull from kingdom, to pull from a spirit world into a natural. Everything that we see here on earth, it's done in the spirit first. Y'all know that, right? That's scripture. Go find it. All right. So boundaries are to help us keep the good in and the bad out. Setting boundaries is where you're learning to take responsibility for your choices. Okay? And this is the thing. This week, I want us to be able to see ourselves, see where we're learning to be that good steward of our soul, and begin to set healthy boundaries for ourselves. As you're growing in these relationships, as you're learning to be the best version of you, as you're being, the best version of you unapologetically, you're learning to do these things because you're able to love yourself enough to know, like, hey, okay, over here, that hurts. So I gotta draw the line in the sand for me. Okay? I am learning every conversation I don't need to be a part of. All right? Some of them just hurt. Period. Some topics just hurt. Not because I am in a denial. See, this is why you've got to be true to you. I'm not setting these boundaries because it's a part of me I don't want to see. I welcome seeing me. I can't be a better me unless you allow me to see or point out the ugly in me. This is why you got to know who has access to you and why. Okay? I'm not going to let just anybody come dump on me or come pick me apart. But when I understand the safe places, I understand the advisors, I understand the ones that have been put into my life for purpose, I'm able to take those things. So I'm not going to cut that person off because they're not saying what I want to hear. Make sense? All right? But you've got to learn to set these boundaries so you know what comes in and what comes out. So if you have someone that every time you're talking about someone, that might be a place that you need to set a boundary. All right? I don't want to talk about somebody because I got enough of my own stuff to talk about. I want to talk about me to the places I can talk to. Okay? Boundaries. They're guidelines. All right? They're the limitations that we set regarding what we will permit or allow. Okay? They're not to control what someone else does, but it's to limit and to protect you from what they do. Okay? We can't control people. We can only control ourselves. Period. All right? We have a problem with self-control. So why do we think we can control somebody? Listen. So we don't want to use boundaries to manipulate, all right? Boundaries do not make others trustworthy or honest. They don't make a person who is compulsive more disciplined, all right? But what boundaries should do for you is to protect you from the impact of someone else's dishonesty, distrust, these things. Again, understand why we set boundaries, okay? If you know that your coworker, talks out of both sides of their mouth, then you got to set a boundary. But that doesn't mean you can't talk to the coworker. You just got to know that you got to kind of take their conversation like a grain of salt. You got to be light with it. You got to know, you set a boundary that that's not the person that you share your intimate time in your heart with. Okay? Boundaries are for you. All right. This distinction is critical for your own emotional safety and peace of mind. All right? Let me see. What do I want to say? Okay. And know that, because I don't know where my notes are. I'm in my head somewhere else. But know that boundaries, ultimately, you're a steward of your own soul. So boundaries are really for you. Okay? Boundaries, you got to understand the purpose, the reason why you're doing it. You got to make sure you're setting these boundaries for the right reason. It's to just be a good steward over your soul. You got to keep the expectations of boundaries in a healthy place, okay? You don't set them to try to change someone. Shame on you if that's what you do, because that is a spirit of manipulation, okay? It is manipulative. It's Jezebel reigns over boundaries like that. You are not a Jezebel. You don't have a Jezebel spirit, okay? You got to know that it is to protect you. It is to keep you lined up with the true you, because we're all learning and growing. All right. Boundaries also help, because you got to remember, you got buckets of people. Okay. Boundaries also help you determine how much of you give. Now, I done told y'all, you got your inner circle, your outer circle, and then you got the ones, the outward, the spectators, the ones who can see you. You should not be giving all of you to every one of those arenas. Your inner circle, that's where you're the most vulnerable. That's where you can just be transparent but ugly. Like all of that. That's where you know that you're covered, that that person is going to love you through your hell, may have to love hell out of you, like all of that. Okay? That's that. The outer circle, that's more like your testimony circle. All right? As they see you grow, you're able to share with them pieces of your process. You're able to talk to them about that intimate space, okay? But the outer gates should not know what's going on with me and my husband or my kids in my house. This is why you got to know boundaries. You set boundaries for you, all right? Boundaries are set so that the spirit man of who you really are is the most of what people see. All right. When you set boundaries, you're not like the most popular person in the room. You might not be liked. All right. You might not be liked, because I think that just in humans, like we as humans, we're spoiled. Even if we don't want to admit it, like we want our way, we want what we want. Like it just is in different places and spaces. Like I want what I want when it comes to electronics. I don't want nothing less. If I gotta wait, I'll wait. I want what I want in accessories. If I have to go 10 years until I can get what I want, I'm good with it. I want what I want with jewelry. Okay? That's why I don't have a lot of it, because what I want is great. And it may take me a minute to get there, but I'm patient. I'm good. All right? That is the whole reason we do it. And everyone don't like me. And I'm okay with that. You shouldn't want. Boundaries help you stop and break that thought of people pleasing. Boundaries help you love you. Okay? It is helping me love me. I'm a people pleaser. I don't like people. I don't like when the perception of me may be wrong, but I'm learning to love me enough and set boundaries for myself that I walk out my character and integrity. And if you don't see it, I gotta be okay with that. I can't go through every person and try to make you see my heart. Okay? But what I've learned in having boundaries is I can now accept that I'm full of flaws, but in my flaws, I'm intentional every day to walk them out to be the best version of me. Okay? When I understand that, I'm doing it in a posture of submission and humility. I'm not doing it arrogantly. I'm not doing it proud. I can be okay with you not liking me. I can be okay with the misunderstanding, because by faith, I know that that is not who I am, and that God will touch your heart and let you see my true heart. And when that happens, because I believe it will, because I'm intentional to try to be a light for him, I also understand that you may accept it and you may not. Boundaries help you free you so that you can have freedom in this journey. Get everything that is in store for you. Pour out what you're supposed to pour out, but also be able to receive what comes in. Whew. Lord. Boundaries help you work through fear. Y'all understand that it's fear that keeps us bound. When we learn to set boundaries for ourselves, listen, I don't even know where I'm at in my notes. We learn to set boundaries for ourselves. We learn how to break that spirit of fear. Everything is a spirit. We're spirit with soul wrapped in flesh. There is a fear. If you're mind conscious, if your mind is more focused on what people feel and think about you, it's because there's a fear. Okay. But when you learn to set these boundaries for yourself, you learn how to deal with the things that may be holding you in bondage. And it brings freedom. Because I don't care how perfect you think you are not going to make everyone happy all the time. Everyone is not going to be happy with you. Period. You can't do it, because if you're in a room with 10 people, there are 10 perspectives, 10 observations, 10 expectations. You are one person. Okay? So you got to break that. Know that your boundaries are set for you. You set them based on you, your character, your integrity. As you grow and learn, boundaries may have to shift, but there should be foundational things because you're spirit first. All right? So it is 10:24. Anyone, question, comments up until this point? Anybody, anything y'all want to share, want to ask? I will take that as a no, because if not, Jacinta gonna come on, because Jacinta gonna say something, because the girl ain't gonna leave me hanging. I already know.
I try to give people a chance. You said a lot just then, but you said something about when we set boundaries, it allows our spirit to something. Could you repeat that if you remember?
Of course I can't. I don't know what I said. Look, I don't know. I said something about the spirit.
Girl, yeah, you said setting boundaries allows your spirit to be free or something like that, and that resonated with. But I need a little. I need
catch the replay, girl.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Catch the replay, because I and like I said, because I don't have my notes. I'm just talking off of what I feel. But the whole thing of boundaries, setting boundaries, is it when I was talking about Jesus? The whole thing about setting boundaries in the nutshell, it is for you to be free. You're the steward of your soul. All right. You're the gatekeeper of your soul. When you set boundaries for yourself, I'm getting hot, y'all. When you set boundaries for yourself, it is the way that you keep things from coming in and out. We have gates. All right. We have our 5 senses, all these different things. So when you set boundaries, you're able to set them based off of what is healthy coming in, what is unhealthy, like staying out. That's the whole point of a boundary. Okay. That's why we have to understand that boundaries have to be set. They're set for us. They're not set for people. It's almost like knowing, like foundational, knowing things that you will and won't deal with, but taking the time to understand why. Okay. Like at this point, because I gossip. I was a gossiper. I was never one. I don't know. For a long time, I guess I felt like I wasn't, because anything that I would say to the person. But at the end of the day, those conversations are unhealthy. So someone may call me. I had to set a boundary for myself. I won't gossip. Okay. So now in that boundary, I'm learning when someone needs to vent so we can find a resolution, versus we sitting up talking about someone. 2 totally different things. So I had to set that boundary for myself. So when the conversation starts going this way, I'm like, Or sometimes I'll be like, Like I try to redirect it. Sometimes I'm very like, I don't want to talk about that. Sometimes I'll try to redirect. If it don't work, because I've set that boundary, I'll tell you, hold that thought, I'm going to call you back. And I just remove myself. But that's what I mean by setting boundaries, because you have to know what you're willing to let in and what goes out. You have to be able to set that. And then it's a standard that you begin to set that's across the board. So I can't change it when it comes to Kadeja because she's my daughter. I can't change it if it comes to, well, James don't even talk about nobody's own, but you can't change it based off of people because it's now boundaries, and the person has to respect it. And if they don't, then you have to be willing to do what you need to keep that boundary set. But I don't know, Jacinta, you have to go back. I make sure I put three.
That answered my question. Thank you. That answered my question.
So anyone else? Anyone else? I don't know about you all, but anyone who's doing this, I think I was emotional today because I'm just coming more in tune with me. Like when I study what I'm gonna do for Monday, but I go over it Monday morning, and when I just started like reflecting back, man, I got so emotional. But it was a good emotion for me because I'm accepting places of brokenness, places of bondage, and I see the freedom that is coming because I love people, and I know that at being at a 50-year mark in this journey, the people I love, I believe that they believe I love them because they believe me, but I can't really say everyone has that. I've shown them that. I have lately more people like more amazed at who they may be in my life than knowing. And that's not a good feeling, y'all. It's not a good feeling. But I'm grateful for learning relational intelligence, and I'm learning how not to beat myself up about it, ways to communicate it, and then just see if that person's willing to continue to walk this journey with me or not. Like, but it's freedom, because the fear of what someone would think used to keep me in bondage. So I think when I started thinking about that this morning, I just got all emotional. But anywho, it's 10:30. I never want to belabor the time. So again, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay positive. Continue to be the best version of you unapologetically, because nobody else can do it. And you are necessary, you are needed, you are victorious, you are relevant, okay? No one can do your part of life in my life but you, all right? So I want you to continue to have a fantabulous rest of the day. Smooches.